Welcome back to Rad City Resin, where you get a new resin tutorial every Tuesday. Today, I'm going to walk you through making this amazing flower ring that's a perfect project for your crafting party or girls' night in. Let's start with our materials. Links to all the materials I used for this project can be found in the description below. Today, we're going to be using packing tape, alcohol inks, 18 gauge crafting wire, J. Diction hard type UV resin, and some simple popsicle sticks. These are actual popsicle sticks, so please ignore the red coloring. Let's make our flower. We'll start by pulling off some 18 gauge crafting wire. There's no real recommended amount, just kind of listen to your heart here. And you can use other gauges. I just used this one because it was nice and sturdy, but you could go thinner or you could go thicker, just depending on what you're looking for. Bend a small tail at the end to give yourself something to hold on to. Then, make your first bend. You're going to bend this back and forth, creating a zigzag. Keep in mind that the length that you make your zigzags will determine how big your flower petals will be. I like to make each line about an inch, maybe a little less. Keep doing this until you have 5 points on one side. Next, we're going to slide something round between each set of lines to create our petal shape. I'm going to use this cap of this resin pigment, but you could use a marker or your finger, anything that has a basic roundedness to it. Once you have the basic shape, you can use your fingers or jewelry tools to perfect the shape that you want. Trim off any excess wire, and I would say for your first project, I recommend you keep your flower as flat as possible. After you've practiced a bit, you can start to make your shapes a little bit more fancy. I'm going to put a dollop of resin directly in the center of my flower to hold everything together. Next, we need to create the base layer of each flower petal. You can use any kind of tape for this project, but I would say masking tape or painter's tape works best. I couldn't find any because my brain is made of Swiss cheese and I can never remember where I left it, so I just use packing tape. Break off a few pieces of the tape and press them to the back of each petal. The strips of the tape don't need to be precise, but you do want them to cover each petal completely. This works best if you do it one at a time. Once you've covered the back of your petal, slowly fill it with a very thin layer of UV resin, then cure for at least 45 seconds. Once you're sure your resin is cured, go ahead and pull off the piece of tape. Repeat this with each petal until all 5 petals have a thin but sturdy layer of resin. You can then pull each piece of tape away and you'll see that each one has a nice thin layer. Next, we can get to the fun part. I like to mix my colors directly on a silicone mat. I'm going to put a few small dollops of resin directly on the mat, and I'll put 1 drop of ink into each spot. I'm using Picasso alcohol ink in violet, fuchsia, and turquoise. I decided to mix a bit of white pigment into the turquoise to make a really pretty teal color. Use your popsicle sticks to drop a bit of the resin onto each petal. You can do this 1 petal at a time, but you do want to be careful that you're not accidentally curing your mixed colors. I went ahead and did all 5 at once because, why not? You can use your popsicle sticks or toothpicks, or really any tool you have available, to create swirls in your colored resin. Once you're satisfied, go ahead and cure your flower for at least 3 minutes. Alcohol ink and pigments can make it harder to cure your resin, and your resin might be a little bit soft or tacky after curing. If possible, cure on both sides. After 3 minutes or longer, you will want to smooth on another thin layer of resin over the colored resin to create a hard layer. When using alcohol ink or any type of colorant, it helps to sandwich the colors between layers of clear resin to make sure that everything cures nice and solid. I also recommend putting a thin layer on the back to get rid of any stickiness that might be left over from the tape. Now let's make our ring. You can use a ring mandrel if you have one, but I'm just going to use the lid of this alcohol ink bottle. You could also just wrap the wire directly around your finger if you don't have anything else to use. I'm going to wrap the wire around the lid 3 times. Then I'm going to wrap one of the sides around those loops 3 times, and then on the other side, I'll do the same but in the opposite direction. This isn't strictly necessary, but I do think it makes the ring a bit more sturdy. Once it's nice and tight, I'm going to check it on my finger to make sure that it fits. On the back side of the ring, I'm going to put a small dab of resin right in the center. Then I'll hold my ring in place while I cure the resin for a few seconds. I only need to hold it in place for a few moments before I can let it go and let the light do the work. And there you have it, the perfect summer statement ring. If you make this project, please tag me in it here, on TikTok, or on Instagram. All of the links can be found in my bio. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again next week. Happy crafting!